Ember Fusillade. This spell is weird. You need to cast it multiple times to accumulate embers, and then wait for a second before it starts doing any damage. But what if it was good? Welcome, Exiles, in today's first episode of Is It Good or Is It Garbage? Where we'll be exploring this seemingly niche spell and seeing if it can stand its ground among the ranks of meta skill giants like Lightning Spear and Essence Drain. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. In the description of the spell, we can see two things of importance. One is that modifiers to number of projectiles instead applied to number of embers accumulated. And two, embers have a hover duration, which can be reduced. What this means is that we can use support gems like Scattershot and Wild Shards to increase the amount of accumulated embers per cast, and Fast Forward and Swift Affliction to reduce the hover duration. However, since Scattershot makes us do way less damage, and Wild Shards is quite inconsistent, we'll instead be using a Corrupted Sire of Shards Chiming Staff with +5 additional projectiles. The downside of the projectiles shooting in a circle doesn't apply to Ember Fusillade for unknown reasons. This means that with each cast, we will be accumulating 6 embers. Now, because I'm a firm believer of combos, I decided to add a few extra Ember Fusillades and split apart the Fast Forward and Swift Affliction support gems with the help of the unique helmet Solus Ips Grand Visage, which allows us to use an extra copy of support gems on different skills. The whole gem setup should look like this: Fast Forward, Fire Masteries, Elemental Focus, Controlled Destruction, and Concentrated Effect. And on the second pair of embers, Swift Affliction, Fire Exposure, Inspiration, and Considered Casting. For the sixth link of the second pair, you can put in Zenith for more damage, or whichever other gem you would like. With all of this, we're basically walking around with a minigun. But we'll have a little bit of a mana problem. To fix that, we'll add Mana Remnants with Dissipate, Magnetism, and Clarity supports. We'll also be using Blink along with Ingenuity and another Clarity. By the way, you can sprinkle in a Flame Wall if you wish. It adds a bit of flat damage to our embers when they pass through it, which is nice. Alright, but we can't be walking around in maps naked with only a helmet, a staff, and a checkpoint, so we'll be adding in a Sacrosanctum Corvus Mantle body armor for that juicy ES recoup, a Snake Pit Pearl Ring on the right ring slot for a nice and smooth mapping because of the +1 chain, an amulet with damage taken recouped his life and mana with +3 level of projectiles and spell damage, and a heavy ammunition anoint on it. Side note, you can also look for a +3 to level of all spell skills if you cannot find a +3 to level of projectiles. Next up, we'll need ES boots with resistances, intelligence, and move speed. ES gloves with resistances and dexterity, a belt with resistances, life, mana, strength, and 2 charm slots so we can put in a stun immunity and a freeze immunity charms. And finally, a ring with fire damage, life, mana regen, and whatever other resistances are still left that need to be fixed. The sockets can be filled with whatever you want, but personally, I've just put in some extra resistances on the gear, and damages extra fire damage on the staff. For the tree, we'll need to pick up Near at Hand and Forthcoming. However, they're quite far from each other, so we won't be deviating too much from the path between them. We'll be picking up as much fire damage, elemental damage, AoE damage, and spell damage along the way as we can though, along with a bit of % increased maximum energy shield. And since we're using a Sacrosanctum body armor, we'll also want to pick up some recoup, which will add to our overall defenses. To scale up our damage a little bit, we'll be adding in a Prism of Belief Diamond Jewel with +3 to level of all Ember at Fusillade skills. and 2 regular blue sapphire jewels with spell damage, elemental damage, and life recoup, one of which will go into our ascendancy socket. Because we're a wise old lich, we'll be taking Necromantic Conduit for more damage, Blackened Heart for more unholy might magnitude, Soulless Form for mana regen, and Crystalline Phylactery for a free jewel socket. You can of course do this tech on the other classes though, like Blood Mage, Infernalist, Gemling Legionnaire, Titan, Stormweaver, and Deadeye. With all of that out of the way, is Ember Fusillade good? Or is it garbage? This skill is good. I don't think it's as good as Lightning Spear, but it's definitely very sturdy for an off-meta skill. It is extremely cheap to get going, only requiring 2 very common uniques. It has great single target damage, and respectable map clear. And with enough investment, Ember Fusillade will carry you through almost all of Path of Exile 2's pinnacle content. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the new format that I'm experimenting with, and I hope you enjoyed this build. I had a ton of fun speedrunning through content with it and blasting my way through maps and bosses. If you have any questions or recommendations for which skill or item I should judge next, make sure to drop it down in the comments below. I do read and reply to as many of them as I can. I'm also going to start streaming my PoE adventures live over on twitch.tv/KaliathLOL, so feel free to stop by at any time. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you wish to see my future Path of Exile content, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay sane, exiles.